Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Shina, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. We're very excited to kick off MARKETECH APAC's What's Next 2023 series. It's a 4-month long festival of knowledge sharing activities where we gather top marketing leaders in the industry to share their insights and predictions on the latest marketing trends. So, first up is today's webinar What's Next 2023 Events in Asia Pacific. So the pandemic pulled the rug under us, halting physical events and shifting audiences to the virtual setting. Now that we're mostly back on track, we have rediscovered the opportunities not just for physical and virtual events, but also for the hybrid format. Events are no longer just one and done marketing strategies. We are now in the age of fast evolving event technology and innovative brands leveraging events to create brand communities. So, how do event led brand communities educate, engage, and influence their consumers? So, today, together with industry leaders, we will shed light on the winning formula to future proof your event strategies and engage event led communities. Are you ready to deep dive further into reimagining event monetization with 365 communities? So, to uncover that is someone who has led brands with technology that help beef up their live events. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce further her background. So, being in this industry for more than 20 years, she's ready to share with us her experiences and the best strategies for your events today in the coming year. I want to get started with a little bit more technical. To get us started, what is a 365 community, Sophie, and how do we monetize a 365 community?
I think, what is a 365 community from an event perspective, or from a media perspective? Very simply, I think it's just your attendees, your audience, or your readership, and the whole ecosystem. So if it's an event, maybe your sponsors, your delegates, your exhibitors, your media partners, everyone who's involved. And it's just about making sure that you keep that alive, which links, a little bit to what Amit was saying, how you make it live longer. So rather than just sort of ending an event and then it just sort of drops off the cliff, how do you now keep that alive 365 so that you have increased customer touch points, you have increased insights, you're feeding the event community, your event community is feeding your event, so you may see content in your community that perhaps you wouldn't see if you just were only dealing with this community at an event. So you're going to see what content they're engaging with, and you're going to see who they're meeting with, and you can feed and translate all of that, into your future event design. So it's basically just totally being in sync with the audience or the attendees or the readership that your brand serves. And obviously through technology, it's becoming a lot better and easier to do this. I think in terms of monetization, your second point, you can do it two ways, really, can't you? You can either offer it for free. You can offer a free subscription or a free membership to this community, which will indirectly lead to, increased revenue, because of course, the closer you are with your customers and your prospects, you can use it to, top of the funnel, get new prospects in, or understand your existing customers better. There's no way that's not going to lead to revenue, because you're going to understand them more and their needs and their pain points, that keep you translating to future products, into a real-time feedback loop, into adding more value, to your attendees or your readers. So, it's going to lead to more revenue, even if you just have it for free. Or you can do it as a subscription-based model, so very much like Netflix or Spotify, where people pay for an annual subscription that automatically renews. So you're looking at the ARR there, so it automatically renews. What you get within that can be packaged up. You can have different tiers. You could even have a free one, and you could have like a bronze, silver, gold. Each one has a different value add for the subscriber to that community. And it could be they have like 4 webinars throughout the year and then 1 in-person meetup. It could be that you're giving them on-demand content. It could be that they're going behind the scenes, meeting those VIP speakers, similar to what we were just discussing then. Ultimately, there's loads of different ways, but I think you either go free and you look at it as an indirect revenue driver, or you sort of tier it and you do it as a subscription-based model.
Yep. So yeah, we're really seeing the potential of events here, right? So events, we used to, when you think of events, we think of it as a one-off, initiative from brands, but it's actually becoming a breeding ground, as you've said, a breeding ground for deeper engagement for consumers. So now that you've shared with us the monetization parts, I want to ask you, how Thus, now building a 365 community allows for greater personalization for brands.
So I think it's the most amazing way to get personalization, because I think through your 365 community, you are going to understand your audience, your attendees, your readers better. For the points I mentioned, you're going to understand, you're going to be able to listen, learn, understand them on a deeper level, get deeper customer insight on a more behavioral level. How are they behaving? How are they interacting with your brand and other brands, and temperature check the market? So you're going to understand that. You're going to also understand what content they are consuming. So you might actually realize they're not consuming the content you expected. So then you're going to build out, say you have 6 micro communities, 6 personas, then you can build out a much better segmented persona-based marketing campaign. And your content marketing, you can match more to what they are consuming through the community that you wouldn't have been able to do before. So you can personalize the journey they have with you, the experience they have with you, the messaging you send to them. You can do much greater persona-based marketing. So all of it through these analytics that we now have and through technology means that we can personalize the experience and the messaging way more than we ever could before.
I think our panelist also was able to touch on this a while ago, that I think it was Amit who said that when it comes to like a sports brand, right? So it doesn't mean that it has to stop with the values of the normal values of athleticism, but you're also using events to also really be able to engage with other consumers that are not just sports enthusiasts, but maybe those that are, wanting to get into sports. And I think it was Razlan who said that, of course, content is king, as what you've said. Yeah. So for my last question, Sophie, so in case of marketers who want to start their journey on building a 365 community, so how do they partner with event tech and define community features, designs, and goals?
I mean, first of all, I think the key thing is to understand what you want to get out of that community. And it sort of links back to what Amit said, to make sure it's in line with your brand and your expectations. That you're trying to achieve direct revenue, you're trying to get closer to your customers, to get more insight, so on and so on. And then you have to sort of devise, what does it look like? Are you going to be offering, monthly webinars, focus groups, increased content, on-demand content, networking, matchmaking? Is it going to be all online, or is it going to be online and in person? So I think you need to sort of set all that out first and foremost. So how that aligns to your brand expectations, what you want to achieve out of it. And I would suggest you probably do some market research with some of your attendees to understand that if you do this community, what do they want from it? So you're working, sort of collaborating with your community to build the community. So you're sort of co-creating it, which leads to co-creation of content as well, as we know, which is really, really big thing at the moment. So I think that's the first thing you have to do. And then you work with a tech provider and treat them as a partner. And you say, this is what I want. This is what my customers want. How do I do it? Because they're going to know how you do it, because it can seem overwhelming. But if you explain essentially what you're trying to get out of it, they can work with you to make sure they set up what we would call an environment that is perfect for your needs. So you can keep your event there. You can keep it with the same sign-on from the event. You can have a single sign-on for each attendee. They don't have to get confused, and you can build it out. So you can build out matchmaking, you can build out content sharing, you can have smaller closed door meetings, open door meetings, you can have sponsors there, so you can get some more money, if you want to monetize it that way. So that's how you would work with a tech provider. You'd make sure that someone really understands what you need and they work closely with you to give you that. And, without doing a big plug for Hubilo, obviously I work for Hubilo, we've just announced we're working with ELX, who are the Event Leaders Institute, to present on their community for event leaders. And what they liked about it is we have like a mini LinkedIn like news feed on the right. So it's only for the community. So you can tag each other. You can have Hubilo lounges where you have open and closed doors, and you can have matchmaking. So that's just one example. And I've been doing events for 25 years prior to this, and that was something that I would be interested in. But there's so many ways. But I think the key thing is you've got to really understand what you want to get out of it and what your audience wants to get out of it. You can't sort of be too prescriptive and say, this is what I think my audience wants. You've got to co-collaborate and you've got to co-create this community. And that's how you really get traction as well.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for insights. I think what I'm getting from you is that you just really have to, you've mentioned a lot of great strategies for event marketing now. It's important that brands really explore what's best for their consumers. And as you've said, you have to be collaborative to be able to really get into the heart of the consumer and know what they want when it comes to event initiatives and event-led communities. So we have a lot of great questions, some that we weren't able to answer in the panel. And there's actually one here that's directed to you, Sophie. So the audience asked, in your perspective, what latest trends in event space are the most future-proof? So you've already mentioned some of that in the last question. So what do you think are the ones that are most targeted in future-proofing brands marketing now that we're entering the new year?
I think, again, anything that keeps it alive, that's got to be, we can no longer just go back to this one hit wonder that we used to have with events. We've got to get close to our markets. We've got to get under the skin of them. We've got to co-create. I've said that a few times, but I'm really interested in that. How we use technology and how we use the digital overlay to co-create and get closer to them so we can evolve. So say I'm running a large trade show in Shanghai, like I used to do. But by getting closer to my community, I might see an opportunity to launch one in Australia. So this is a big thing that we've got to think about. I think the content marketing piece that we can pull content from an event to translate into year-round content marketing, to drip feed messaging, linking back to the story arc that we've talked about today. I think that's a big thing. I think when you're going to in-person events, I think facial recognition. So, there's some technology out there where you print you put your badge into your, registration form, and you get there and you stand in front of the kiosk and it prints your badge. So this touchless thing as well, people are getting away from that because of COVID, aren't they? And diversifying your revenue streams. There's many different ways now to generate revenue through events. And I think, though, we are definitely getting more into like a Netflix, Spotify model. Yeah. So I think this subscription, we're almost going back 20 years back into publications, the original subscription model. But I think we're going more into subscriptions as well, getting closer to the markets year round.
Yep, so it's really just being able to get the most out of technology and in-person events and combining the powers of both to be able to deliver great events, right? So there's another question here. So in your experience in media events industries, so what do you think are the important elements that would lead a hybrid event to stand out and achieve commercial success? So I think this would be more on the development of an event. So what do you think are the factors that, I think what the audience is trying to ask is what factors we must consider in order for us to stand out from other brands events and be able to snare that attention from audiences?
Well, if you work really closely with your audience and the industry that your event serves, it will always help because you're going to iterate it. And we need to learn from technology. In technology, you have a minimal viable product, and then you have to keep iterating it based on customer needs. And I feel like with events, we need to get like that now. And I think the pandemic forced us to strive to be a bit better in that respect. From a hybrid point of view, having a community in an in-person event can be hybrid. I mean, there's so many definitions of really what a hybrid is. But I think, the devil's in the detail with events. So if you want an exceptional hybrid event, understand your market, get them on board, get them behind you. But the main thing is make sure you've planned for every scenario, particularly if you're doing hybrid, because you're going to be broadcasting live. You need to make sure that everything has been researched, prepped, planned, tried, all of that, as well as you're running the in-person event. So make sure you almost minute by minute understand what's happening, and particularly, with speakers, how some are in person and some are online. Make sure you've done lots of speaker prep. There's a lot of content about that, about how you do that, and make sure your sponsors are aligned and happy with it as well. And the final piece, I think, is education, because all of this is so new for so many people. So even for your attendees and your sponsors, a lot of this technology is new. So make sure you have your FAQs and your exhibitor manuals and your sponsor manuals and explain it all, and almost have a workshop to explain how it's all going to work pre-event.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's really over preparation that, anything goes in events, right? And there's just so much innovation. You have to be able to just have all hands on deck and just be able to get the most out of your events, right? So I think we have just time for one more question. And I want to be able to give you a really great question to cap off the conversation. So I think this one's a good one. So now we have virtual, right? We have in person, and now we have hybrid. So brands are really choosing among these platforms. So which among virtual, hybrid, and in-person platforms do you think you can gain more engagement? Which
I'm
do you
going to say Hubilo, because I work for them, and I must say, before I did that, I founded a company in the pandemic called the Virtual Events Institute, and it was all about training and upskilling event professionals and marketing professionals. And I got to know all of the different technology during that period, as well as the event professionals. And that is the reason I joined Hubilo. But for me, if I was running events, I would want a really good broadcasting stream. I'd want to know that was, and also that it was secure, as well, because that's really important, particularly when you're having high privacy content or anything like that. So I'd want multi-function broadcasting. I would want breakout rooms. I'd want matchmaking. I'd want to be able to say, these are my 6 cohorts, micro communities. They can all meet each other, because people really get so much from that in the run-up and at the event on an app. I'd want to know I had a good support team, customer support team, and also, I'd want some good in-person tech as well, like I mentioned, like facial recognition, lead scanning, data pull, plug it straight into your CRM on site, so you can get all the leads you're going to get and put that straight into your CRM for fast follow-up, etc.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sophie, for your insights and for your thoughts. What a great way to cap off the great panel that you've had earlier. So thank you so much. So we may have started the event with the notion that events are only brand building strategies, but our speakers' insights have actually given us the push to explore more opportunities and effectively use events for commercial success. So after today, we are all the more excited to see event planners and marketers build engaged and sustainable event-led communities. We would like to thank Hubilo, who's been our partner for this webinar. And that concludes our first regional webinar for the What's Next series. Thank you, everyone, to our audience. What a great industry discussion that we've had today. And once again, I'm Shaina, and until our next conversation.